Yeah, I've got a trick or two.
We'll find out soon enough.
Hi everyone and welcome back to Raging Ryno. Okay, so I just got done watching episode 5 of the Clone Wars season 7 called Gone with a Trace. I didn't really know how to feel about this episode. I've now watched it twice. I watched it the first time and I got to the end of it and I was like, okay, I'll do my review. And I honestly didn't really get anything out of the episode, so I decided to watch it again. And there's a couple of things that I think I realized why it wasn't as good as probably the first 4 episodes of this season. I kind of wish that I had done a review on each of those episodes that we had, the first 4, on the Bad Batch, because I love that story arc so much. I just love everything to do with the clones when it comes to the Clone Wars. Let's go through this episode. Let's just break it down a little bit, and I'll first, actually, the first thing that I will say is the music to me made it seem really childish. Like really, I don't want to say childish, but it just seemed like it was nothing like the other 4 episodes in regards to the music behind it. Anyway, I'll explain what I mean as we go through the episode sort of step by step. I also love how at the beginning of every episode we get like a little phrase and it sort of relates to the episode a bit. In this one, it was, if there is no path before you, create your own. It was pretty cool. I did like it. I actually want to go through the Clone Wars again and possibly do some reviews on the channel for you as well. And just go through some of those things because, again, they do dive pretty deep with some of those phrases that we get at the beginning of each episode. Okay, so we start off with Ahsoka, who's left the Jedi Order, of course. We see that at the end of, I think it was season 5. I'm pretty sure it's season 5. At the end of season 5, she leaves the Jedi Order. So I'm pretty sure this leads straight from that moment, but I can't be 100% certain. She is wearing different clothes, and to me it seems that she looks a little bit older, but I could be wrong there. Anyway, I'm not too sure exactly. Maybe you guys can let me know if you know in the comments below. So she's left the Jedi Order. She's moving down the levels of Coruscant there on the speeder. We saw this trailer come out, or this clip come out. I think it was at Star Wars Celebration. I can't remember exactly when that got released, but we did see that, which was pretty cool when we saw it. But now that, again, now that it's come out, I don't know how to think about this episode. I really don't. It didn't excite me. It didn't really do anything for me. I want to see, I mean, this will obviously lead into Ahsoka leaving and joining the fight again in some way, shape or form. So I got to see where it sort of goes. But anyway, let's break down the episode. So she's going down the levels. She ends up crashing on level 1313. We all know level 1313. She bumps into, or she lands on the deck where Trace is. She comes out. She's a mechanic. Anyway, Trace comes out and says that she can help her. But it's going to cost her money, and Ahsoka then says that she doesn't really have a lot of credits, but she then sort of invites her in anyway. That's the other thing too. It just seemed too, I mean, I know they've got to probably do it really quickly, but they seem to make friends really quick, and Trace seemed to accept Ahsoka, even though Ahsoka didn't have a lot of credits, very easily. Anyway, without sort of negotiating any terms, it was very strange to me. Anyway, again, like, I don't know, maybe they do have to just get this going real quick because they've only got 12 episodes in this season. I don't know. So Ahsoka's fixing her speeder bike, which is a piece of junk. She needs a part. She asks Trace for the part, and Trace says that she's only got what she needs, but she doesn't have any extra. Ahsoka sort of, the great thing about this moment, and the thing that I did love about this moment, was the conversation that Trace and Ahsoka have not long after this moment, but also they really show how lost Ahsoka really is, or how lost Ahsoka really feels. It was really well done in that when she puts the goggles down and she goes, I don't even know what I'm doing here, sort of thing. And she walks out onto the platform and she looks up. And yeah, she really does look, and it really does make you feel like she's lost. And it's a good moment. Trace sort of helps her out after Ahsoka walks outside and gets the bike running for her. Ahsoka hears that and comes back inside. After that, she goes, oh, how much is it going to cost? And Trace says it's on the house. So she's helping fix the bike for no charge. While she's doing that, they again engage in this conversation, and I do like this conversation where Trace essentially blames the Jedi for this war going on. Now, Ahsoka, of course, tries to defend the Jedi and says the Jedi didn't start this war. And Trace says, well, what does it matter anyway? Because the Jedi have forgotten about us. There's a great conversation in there that takes place that really shows how much the Jedi have strayed from their path and essentially started turning to the dark side. Really, really, really good moment there. That is then interrupted by Pinto, who comes in and is looking for Trace's sister, Rafa, who owes him some money. Now, I can't remember exactly if we find out why she owes money, but I don't think it matters, and I don't think we find out anyway. So this Pinto has his two thug guys with him, which are alien creatures. I don't know what type of alien creatures they are, and Pinto's also an alien creature. Maybe some people can let me know out there in the comments below. So he comes in and he wants his money and he threatens Trace, and they both, Ahsoka goes, you don't want to do that, or something, you know. Ahsoka essentially interrupts, and Pinto and Trace both turn to Ahsoka at the same time and say, stay out of it. So Ahsoka's essentially standing there and she's like, okay, I'm going to stay out of it. Pinto then calls his thugs to then start beating up Trace, and there's a fight that goes on and ensues. In that moment, essentially the two thugs get the high ground on Trace, and Trace asks Ahsoka and changes her mind and asks her for some help. Ahsoka then it sort of zooms in on one of the aliens that's trying to punch Trace, and then Ahsoka just stops the punch. Ahsoka then pushes him back, and this is where the music comes in for me. The fight that she has, she's doing this capoeira shit, or whatever you want to call it. She's doing all these fight moves, and it's okay, it's cool, it's nice karate, like karate sort of style fighting. But the music in this moment is very childish. Again, I know it's a cartoon and it might be designed for kids, but there are a lot of adult fans out there that do love the animated series, and I don't know if there's any other episodes throughout the Clone Wars where the music felt out of place for me. It really, really, really did. That's my main bit. In that fight, the music is a bit off for me. It's almost like comedic music. Anyway, so Ahsoka tells Pinto, you know, to pretty much get lost. They go and leave, and Trace asks Ahsoka where she learned to fight like that. Ahsoka tells her that her brother taught her how to fight. Now, her brother, you would assume she's referring to Anakin. And yeah, so she's saying that Anakin taught her to fight, which would essentially be true. But she refers to him as her older brother. They then go off to find Trace's sister, Rafa. They find her snooping around in some lockers, and she finds something, and Trace comes in and asks her if that belongs to her. And she says, not yet. So you kind of get this idea that she's a bit of a thief. She's a bit of a scoundrel. And she asks Ahsoka who she is, and Ahsoka says she's from the upper levels. Again, not giving away that she's a Jedi, because she's not a Jedi, or a Force user of any kind, or she was a part of the Jedi Order, or any form of Jedi. She can't sort of give that away. And I can understand the secretiveness of that and why she would try and have to keep that to herself, because then she, like, everyone thinks she's a Jedi. They all want her help or something like this. She can't refer to herself as a Jedi. And that's how she would feel. Again, she's sort of feeling a bit lost on how does she go about this. She's sort of treading on eggshells a little bit, or really thin ice. They have this conversation, and you can sort of get this idea that Rafa doesn't like Ahsoka, and Ahsoka really has bad feelings and, you know, sees the real bad side of Trace's older sister, Rafa. We then have this Twi'lek, male Twi'lek, blue guy walk in, and they talk about how he needs 3 droids to be built, and she basically wheels and deals, and they make a deal, and the guy brings the droids around for them. So Ahsoka basically tells Trace while they're building these droids to make sure that she puts the restraining bolt onto the droid. Trace then refers to the droid as a B2 load lifter. B2 load lifter. And Ahsoka then realizes that these droids were falsely built, or, you know, falsely advertised as this load lifter when they're actually a destruction droid or a demolition droid. And Ahsoka's put her thing on, and as she realizes that, the thing sort of comes to life and then tries to crush Ahsoka. And as sort of that's happening, she uses the restraining bolt to stop it. As that sort of happens and finishes, Trace's droid, the one that she was working on, comes to life, but she hasn't yet put the restraining bolt on. So this droid sort of just automatically goes crazy and starts, you know, throwing desks around. Now, if this is a demolition droid, doesn't really demolish too much stuff. Yes, it jumps around, but to me it looks like a kid in a shopping mall that is having a bit of a tanty and just grabbing stuff and sort of chucking it. But anyway, so this droid goes for a run. It runs away, and Trace is running after it. They run past Rafa, and Rafa's like, "No, this is going to cost us more money." Ahsoka runs past, and it jumps off the bridge, so they can't really follow it anymore. And that's where it looks like a child in a shopping center or a shopping mall. So Trace sends Ahsoka back to the factory to get the tracking device for this thing, while she goes and gets this speeder with a clamp on it. So she goes and gets the speeder. They meet up again. They go to try and find the droid. They find the droid. They finally grab onto it with the lifter speeder thing that they've got, and it starts climbing up the wall. Now they've got to let it go because it's going to break the speeder or something like that. And while it's climbing up the wall, Trace jumps on it and has to push the blue button. And Ahsoka yells that out, "You got to push the blue button to switch it off." And I thought she knew that because she was a mechanic. But anyway, that's besides the point. So they're climbing up the wall. Just as they get to the top, this kid's about to get sort of snatched or swiped or squashed or whatever by the droid, and she pushes the button. She looks up and goes, "Hey, kid." And just as she says that, the droid starts falling back. Ahsoka, of course, using her Jedi powers, or, you know, Jedi reflexes, I should say. She turns the lifter speeder around and catches it just as it's falling. And it starts pulling the speeder off the edge. As it's sort of falling, Ahsoka's trying to, you know, keep the speeder up. She realizes that she can't, so she jumps off the front, grabs the winch, puts the winch on, and she turns the winch on, and it starts coming up, and then all of a sudden, the winch starts failing, so it starts falling again and starts falling again. Ahsoka then has to use her Jedi powers to, Jedi pull, you could say, to bring the speeder up. She makes it look like the winch is doing it. I don't think there's a lot of adults in that around, because it does pass this kid, and the kid sees Ahsoka's hand and sort of realizes what she's doing, but it seems like she's the only one realizing what Ahsoka's actually doing. Ahsoka then looks off the edge, and the Trace is okay, and we're all okay. Then we go back to the warehouse where they've been working on these droids, and Rafa is having an argument essentially with Ahsoka about the sale or giving back these droids, because they're just destructive droids and Ahsoka's seen them in action and knows what they can do. Rafa's not having a bar of it. She tells her that she's the new kid, and she starts talking to Trace about it. And Trace just tells her basically, you can see that Trace doesn't really want to go through with this because of what Ahsoka's saying. It makes sense. And you could say Trace is a good person, and Rafa really isn't. So that's it's very chalk and cheese between these two sisters. Rafa's the older sister too, by the way. Where do we go from here? So Rafa says that she will be smart about it, and she goes off. Trace and Ahsoka go off to go and get something to eat or something like that. We end up pretty much at this shot where Ahsoka and Trace are sitting down at, a bench eating some food or whatever, and they're just having a conversation. And Rafa comes over like a full pimpin', and says to Trace that she sold him for double. And Trace gets a little bit upset, and Ahsoka is a little bit pissed off that she did. And Trace explains that she doesn't really care. If we don't do it, somebody else is just going to do it, and essentially it's sort of the thing that they may as well do it, and that Bintu will eventually be coming to them for work. So she's trying to persuade Trace to stay on target, and that's pretty much where the episode ends. Just Ahsoka goes, I'm gonna go and finish fixing my speeder bike and sort of get out of here, and you can sort of see that Trace wants her to stay, but Ahsoka sees that Rafa's really this sort of evil person at heart, just doesn't care, doesn't give a fuck. So Ahsoka, I think, just wants to leave, doesn't want to be around that sort of environment. It's a good choice. So my overall thoughts, it was an okay episode. It was okay. Again, I want to see... Obviously, we know Ahsoka doesn't have her sabers with her or anything like that, and she can't go and use, too much of her force power or anything, and I know it needs to build a story from here. So it was a bit just like a meh episode for me. And yeah, I think the biggest downside of it was the music. It just seemed like it was off for me. Didn't like it. Other than that, it was okay. So that's it. That's my review. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Please do all of that. And I'll see you in the next review.